Are you ready?
That's my line. Don't pinch it.
I know what to look forward to from the guests you've had on and things to avoid as well. They're hard way lessons. Overall, women tend to undervalue themselves.
If we can inspire one.
I've learned a lot from people like yourself, and I've always appreciated the what would you tell your younger self question. You can't be selfish anymore. You can't think about yourself because you're responsible for other people. You have no choice.
But it takes most of them 30 years to get there. You've done it in 12 months.
Someone would look at me and say, "You're 19, what do you know about life experience?"
There is nothing better than a face-to-face meeting.
I'm just trying to get to next week, man.
Doesn't matter who I talk to, someone has a story to tell and it'll blow your socks off. Hello everyone, my name's Graham Strang and I hope my younger self is listening. Tonight's guest, Jack, who's actually from Ripple Media. We are doing something a little bit different tonight. He's normally sitting behind the camera. We're actually going to discuss what we both got out of me sitting on this side of the desk, him sitting on that side of the camera. But me as a 48-year-old, you as a 19-year-old, and we're going to compare notes.
That's what it comes down to. Going from episode 1 all the way to the latest episode, it has been one of the most unique experiences watching from Jodie Cotter all the way up to Sam and other characters, if you will, seeing how everyone has such diverse personalities and yet similar experiences.
And look, I've seen you, and you know, if Nicole's hiding over there too. You look at a lot of the references that I discuss with guests that you're sitting there going, I have no idea what these people are talking about.
The other day he mentioned to me what an internet box was. You'd like dial it up, you'd put a little coin into it.
The internet machine at the pub, yes.
It sounded like you were describing a time machine, pretty much.
Well, it was the closest thing to a TARDIS we ever had. And it is a change. I'm trying to explain to my kids that in the pub that we owned, we had a timber box covered in black felt that you dropped $1 coin in, and it gave you 15 minutes of dial-up.
Wow.
It was amazing. That was like lightning.
Exciting times.
Look, that was more than 20 years ago, so I'm not discussing it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting hearing your viewpoint on a number of our guests, because we've got some patterns that have really come through in some of our guests. What's something you've observed just across the board?
What I've observed is you've had such a variety of characters come on, from musicians, worldwide musicians, to people who ran their own food truck for ages and have dipped their toes into multiple different industries. Although what I've learned is that overall women tend to undervalue themselves. Yeah,
it's been a real surprise for me. Like, I've openly discussed that with people, and it's been a real shock for me that these women that are strong, powerful, and I rate them, you know, they undervalue themselves either in the chair or in the initial approach of going, hey, do you want to come do this? And they're like, oh no, I don't have a story to tell you. No, I've got no story. And just... It makes me realise that we have to actually showcase them more, because you don't want that undervalued woman, female, daughter, girlfriend, wife, whoever it is. I don't want them to feel undervalued. I fully believe we live in an equal world.
Well, how does it feel displaying something to your audience that not only empowers these women but also works as an inspiration for younger women?
Look, and it's hard. I'm a bloke, so my interpretations are different. But if we can inspire one to go, you know what, I don't need to, I can do this. I can take that hard step. I don't have to work for someone. I can have a crack myself or start their side hustle, whatever it might be. That's a win for me.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to you sending them the little trailer before we put out the main podcast for each of your guests, what would you say is one of the most common reactions that you've received?
Holy shit. That is just about everyone has gone, holy shit. Like, I had no comprehension, and then they sit down, they watch the whole thing, and then they come back and go, oh, I have a story. Absolutely, you do. And that gives me, that's where my value comes from doing this, is just having that response of like, I didn't know that was my story.
Another thing I found really interesting is most of the conversation you see on camera, although it's been such a blessing experiencing the rest of the conversation off camera as well. You know, during the breaks, the intermissions, or even right at the end.
Oh, look, it's when people relax. That's when you get it out of them. I mean, it's the first sweary fairy. You know, Tilly was my favourite. You know, we were just sort of going along, and then she dropped an F-bomb, and then just away we went.
That's it.
Great.
That's it. And I've noticed a bit of a pattern, especially because we record these in 2 sections.
Yeah.
It's after that first section when we have a bit of a break, we get comfortable with each other. They know they're not being recorded quite yet. And then they start to open up, or especially after that first fuck bomb is introduced.
But it is, and it's true, right? And I guess it's probably an honesty part of them too. Is like all of a sudden they can be themselves, because you look at everyone who's virtually sat there and they've spent the first 5 minutes trying to be proper, trying to be someone that they think the camera needs to see, when the only expectation is just turn up and be you, tell your story, show us who you are.
And I think it's been really, really cool seeing them kind of unravel themselves on camera, in the sense that as a young person on the opposite side who's just started their business, you know, first financial year and all, I know what to look forward to from the guests you've had on, and things to avoid as well. They're hard way lessons.
And, you know, I was only having this conversation with a couple of the team today, is that most of the really smart people I know, they're smart because they actually did it wrong over here first. And that's why I've even done it with you. You said things to me, I'm like going, you can do that, but this was my experience and it'll cost you money.
Oh, yeah. And then I come back a month later and say,
you were right.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in people's beliefs? Like when I'm quizzing them on how their views and beliefs are, when the different methodologies of business are like.
It's a bit funny, you know, sitting behind the camera. We've seen instances where you'd be talking with one of your guests about something almost paranormal happening, and you share quite similar beliefs, and you say the universe.
Yeah.
I call him Jesus Christ. And so do other people, in the sense that we may have different worldviews and different faiths or perspectives, although the lessons that you teach with this belief all carries out in a similar way, whether you believe it's the universe or whether I believe it's Jesus.
It actually boils down to values.
Yeah.
You know, if I can give you 100 different beliefs, 50 different religions, whatever it might be, the values that actually run through are all very similar. And that's the bit I really enjoy. It amuses me at times because I'm not terribly religious, but I guess I talk about the universe a bit, which probably does make me slightly religious. But the fact that the values run very similarly through all of them, regardless of who you're talking to.
Yeah, definitely. And the way they try to portray that is very interesting as well, through their experiences. Nonetheless, some of the most interesting guests you've had on have been people who've gone overseas. Yeah.
And either worked in bars or served cups of coffee and are playing pianos in places or trying not to get shot by the FBI. What about struggles?
Struggles.
Yeah.
Well, the struggles were real. I'd say the most common theme I've seen behind most of your guests is at one point in their journey, they all struggled with that imposter syndrome. Am I enough? Is me building a team this huge asset I'm receiving? Am I worthy of this?
And that's male or female. You know, and I'm actually getting more of that package back once they've actually watched themselves. Hearing people like Dale and so forth going, you know what, I probably left this bit out, which would have made sense of that. And Dale, Peter Ruckus, and all that crew, really, they're just even the struggles are similar.
Yeah.
Different, but how the battle of trying to work for yourself.
Yeah.
And as I said, it's not for the faint-hearted.
Oh, that's right. Me behind the camera, you introducing me to more people, me meeting your entire network. I've learned a lot from people like yourself. When you were 19 and you were surrounding yourself with mentors, did you have similar experiences?
You're well ahead of me at 19. At 19, I was a jackaroo in the Riverina in New South Wales. I was mainly surrounding myself with jackaroos, chillaroos, and alcohol. I had a very big party life at 19. I still had a really good job with responsibilities, but I wasn't building something like you are, so totally different. I was probably lucky I had a really good boss who taught me a lot of the values I use now, talk about values, but I didn't learn about running a business. I didn't learn about running a business until I was probably 27 or 28.
Yeah.
So that's where I hope that even, if you take 1% from every one of these guests, it'll set you so far ahead of everyone else that's frightening.
And I've always appreciated the what would you tell your younger self question.
Yeah. But you look at those younger self questions, is that they vary from everyone going, don't change anything, just believe in yourself, to, for God's sake, buy shares in Google. There's a big varying opinion in there. But especially at 19, I wish I had a lot of what you're getting, because I wouldn't have changed my trajectory, because I still did a lot of those really cool, fun things. But I think that's probably one of the marvels of internet and connection and that sort of stuff, is at 19, we had no mobile phones. We had a payphone in Jackery's quarters we used to fight over. So we probably didn't have the breadth of connection that you have now. So that's one of the advantages of social media and so forth.
And have you seen a transition with a lot of the older business owners who they've built this long-lasting established asset for themselves, and these new technologies are catching up faster and faster? Is it a scary place to be?
Look, even I touch on it now, I'm 48. I'm lucky that my dad was really progressive. Like he get very stuck in the mud at times, but he always taught me you got to change. You got to be ready to change. But dealing with there's a lot of the business owners I deal with, especially the ones in their 60s now. They long for the old ledger book. They want to be able to open the old green book, go to page 7, line C, row F, and know that that's what their figure is. Whereas you and I are going to go to a phone, open up 0, and go, cool, that's where it is.
If you press buttons in the right order, amazing things can happen. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It is. You've got to want to learn to know how to do that too. Look at our discussions around AI and how I can use that, how I can use it for the shop. They're not easy for me, because I like what we do. Yeah. But I recognise that just because I like it doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. Look at today. Today is July 1. It is I'm in hangover financial year mode because we had such a big day yesterday. I longed for the small shop and just everyone ticking along and me going to be able to close my eyes and sit in a chair for 15 minutes. We've evolved from that, so we just got to get in and do it.
Hell yeah. And when it comes to getting in and getting it taken care of, or GSD,
get shit done. Yeah.
I've seen so many guests on your podcast go through struggles but still maintain the discipline to get shit done. When it comes to me, I went through a transition where I went from a sole trader to managing a team, managing clients and relationships, and I went through this transition where you can't be selfish anymore. You can't think about yourself because you're responsible for other people. You have no choice. Is that a similar experience other people have?
Absolutely, but it takes most of them 30 years to get there. You've done it in 12 months.
Wow.
So you're going to have your own. You're going to have your own thing that's going to hit you in the face.
I'm sure.
And it will. You're lucky you've got your mother, because she's pretty smart. Your father as well. They're going to be there for when that happens, because you will hit a block. Something will come and I've been through it. I could have sold this place a couple of years ago. Yeah. Because I just couldn't bear to unlock the door. I just didn't want to do it. And it wasn't this shop, it wasn't anyone. It was just, one, I hadn't had a break. You and I have had that discussion. And two, I hadn't just worked out purpose. It's all good and well making money. That's great. But why are you making money? What are you doing it for? What is the goal that you want to achieve? It doesn't matter if you're buying a boat, you want to take more holidays, you want to retire at 56, me. If you don't have the purpose, eventually you run out of go.
I recall moments at networking groups where I would mention a term called life experience, and someone would look at me and say, "You're 19, what do you know about life experience?" I think one of the reasons I'm in the position where I am today is because I've experienced close to death experiences, experiencing life-threatening surgery in the hospital for both my younger brother and myself. And because
probably if you're in those discussions, again, you actually say, "Yeah, I do have life experience." and here's a couple of examples, and you probably knock that conversation on the head. You know what, you and I talk about communication and information.
Yeah, that's it, hey?
Yeah.
And that's what I proceeded to do, really. I think it was a rude shock, and I think everyone needs that at least one point in their lives, especially when I see your guests as well. They had a wake-up call at one point.
Everyone has the moment. Mine was Jamie Lee coming home to me as from foster care and not knowing, you know, I hadn't seen her in 7 or 8 months, and they were gone, and mother went to jail, and I was raising a 14-month-old by myself.
You have to be an adult.
There is the thing that just makes you grow up, and everyone has it. I don't care who it is. There is a point in your life where the world just goes and adulthood lands. Some people it's 18, some people it's 30. It just depends on the moment.
Wow. So in those moments, we look at Sam, for instance. He went through a terrible experience, but he chose to stay locked in, even though he was having one of the most down experiences possible. He had a team to manage. He had a huge surrounding of his family, his network.
And he will tell you that there's a bit of luck involved too. Like, even I can't speak for him, but I know when I went through mine, I'm just lucky that I had mum and dad, I had Tila, I had my couple of mates around me who just knocked me on the side of the head and just said, you know, come on, you've either got to get on the horse or get off the horse. What are you doing? And then I just, as you can see, stayed on the horse. But there was luck involved in those down moments. You know, they talk sliding doors and all those sorts of things. But if you're lucky, you have the people who will keep you on track. You know, there's plenty of people who will go out the back door because they can't keep the focus. Well, they just don't want to do it anymore.
I've seen you mention a bunch of times that the people you want to surround yourself with, you in particular, you say something about duct tape and a shovel. You know, those ride or die friends.
Look, they talk ride or die, but I talk about everyone needs, you know, I'm a big believer in having 3 good friends. One of those friends, you have to be able to ring at 2 o'clock in the morning, ask them to bring a shovel and duct tape, and they won't ask. They'll just front you. You know, you need that friend who's going to tell you the truth. But you also need that friend. You can turn up at their place and you can absolutely unload on them and tell them every bare part of your soul. They won't judge you. They'll call you a dickhead. And then they'll go, okay, hungry? And then you've bared your soul, you've got it out of your system, and you can function. I mean, it's where I see people go wrong in life and in business, is that they hold it all here, and eventually they fall down because they just can't function.
As a young person trying to navigate the world, especially business, people can put on a good outwardly appearance, but how can you distinguish the real ones from the not?
Consistency.
Experience.
And you will deal with someone time after time, and if it's a facade, you know very quickly, because eventually it all falls apart. It's whether that's dating, real life, work, whatever it is. That if you're dealing with someone who's trying to put on a front, and there's many reasons to put on a front, not just negative. It's not sustainable. So that's why as you know, my social media is very real. In here, I'm very real. How I act in here and on socials is how I act at home. You know, a lot of that tomfoolery, the seriousness, even the half of those motivational things I share them because I actually believe them.
Although, on behalf of that, and the entire reason you started the podcast from the beginning, I remember you saying, if I could change one person's life, I'd be satisfied. I want to fill up that diary. Although you've told me experiences about random people stopping you in car parks. What did that do for you?
Look, I hate validation, but it's close. Didn't validate it for me, but it actually made me go, okay, we are doing the right thing here. When that guy from Adelaide turned up in here and said, look, I'm actually up here for work, but I listened to your podcast. I want to come into the store and say hello. But for me, it's actually people who I consider more successful than me have sent me messages at 9 o'clock at night going, hey, I'm glad you did that. I needed to hear that today.
Wow.
And me go, cool. And that's it. In here, that I can tell you, that is the soundest I'll sleep.
Wow.
Because you just feel like you've helped someone to a point in their day.
Okay, definitely. When it comes to the business you're trying to manage, everything else as well. And even what I've seen through your guests coming on, people have been starting to make a slow realization that content needs to be personal.
It does. You go and show me, we'll just use Facebook. You go and show me 10 Facebook posts on a business where they're telling you you can buy 4 shirts and get 1 free. And I will bet you $100 right now you can't remember one of them.
No.
But you go to a business that 80% of their content is based around their team and their people, I will bet you that you can name at least one of their staff. Because you get to know them. That's the big thing now. You know, as they say in Aladdin, we pride ourselves on service. Well, it's very true, but you're actually delivering that service and experience virtually to people. So when they come in the store, Sarah, Jamie Lee, Chloe, Alex, whoever it is, we feel like we know you. We hear that all the time. We feel like we know you. And that is rolling out from under in shirts and doing silly videos and things. That is doing our product chats a bit more casually, and who we are. It's real. I keep repeating myself. It's got to be real.
It's got to be real. In summary of everything we've talked about so far, there's still plenty more to come. Out of my personal curiosity, we haven't covered your hard way lesson on camera.
Hardest lesson I learned was when I grew up. I had a motorbike and a backpack. I was living in I don't think I owned a house then. Probably not. Maybe I did. And that phone ringing and me having to go with my mother and go and pick up this child, and looking at this little blonde 14-month-old and realizing I was now in charge. She was my responsibility. And I had no fucking idea what I was supposed to do. And the hardest lesson I learned was you have to figure it out. When the complete shit hits the fan, when it's bottom of the ground, there is nowhere else to go. That I bottomed out there. That was I as much as it was amazing she came home, I didn't have a car. I flat out had a roof over my head. I'd just come back to work at the pub for Dad a bit longer. So I had to change my entire life based around I was responsible for this little creature.
Wow.
And it just had to find a way. Once again, lucky I had the right people around me. And here I am now. Jamie Lee's 21. She handles a large portion of our sales here. She has done magnificent things in her life. So I'm so proud of her being able to do that and not fall victim to the things that happened in her life. That's the hard way to the proud way. To at least we've done something right because she's become a good human.
Wow. On the topic of work-life balance, I've heard from you plenty of times that you've had this amazing experience with Jamie Lee, raising her and balancing business at the same time. Is there anything that you would change?
Look, I've said it a couple of times. So one thing that Jamie Lee did to me when Nova was little, she said, don't let her grow up at work. Because that's what I did. Not that she holds any of that against me, but I certainly picked Nova up from school a bit more, go to the park. We just go and do something dumb. We just go and hang out, talk crap, play Minecraft, watch her cheat incessantly at Because Jamie Lee missed out on a bit of that, because I was brought up to work. You go to work, you can bring the kids with you, they come to work with you. It's just the way you do it. I'm blessed is probably the right word of saying, is that we've built something now that means I can do and know was going to benefit from being the youngest, and probably we'll get a bit more than Jamie Lee and Aiden did. Because when Jamie Lee and Aiden were little, we were in building phase. So it's go time. Nicole will know exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's just go time. So I have a much better work-life balance now than I did when the Jamie Lee, I don't include Aiden in this conversation, when they were little. We've got a little line here that says, can you learn the hard lessons without living the hard life? I'll let you, at your age, answer it first.
Well, that's, people always say work smarter, not harder. And then other people say, actually, you should work as hard as possible. I think finding a fine balance between the two, but prioritizing action is always the correct answer.
Yeah. And look, There's only one way you learn a lesson. And you and I touched on it before. There's a couple of things that you've said to me you're going to do. I've looked you in the face and gone, this is going to bite you in the ass. And you did it anyway.
Yeah.
And you came back and said, yeah, that absolutely bit me in the ass. You can, I will use that as an example of the best learnt lesson is experiencing it.
That's right.
Only the truly brilliant will learn the lesson without having to do it.
It depends how bad the horror story is.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's when it comes down to, you know, a logo redesign, for instance, or a website. I think, I probably should have done that a couple of months ago when Graham recommended it. You know, that's a small one, you know.
Yeah.
Although the big ones, I try my best to avoid.
Yeah, and you'll still do it. I know money that I've, you know, my Commodore Ute that I bought with my heart, not with my brain and my gut, right? And I believe 5-10 grand. Yeah, that's a good example of doing something that I actually knew better, but I did it anyway.
We won't go there. The Capri's my baby.
I'm feeling some pinions from the other side of the camera.
Oh no!
But it is. No. But that's when you make decisions with your heart, it's hard because they're things of value to you, but they're not necessarily the best decision.
That's true. That's true.
That's why I joke sometimes. Some emotion gets in the way of a good business decision.
Oh yeah, definitely. And waiting. Far out, working with people who move so slowly. You warned me a couple months ago. You said, Jack, your biggest problem is the fact that you're impatient. And I didn't doubt you that time because I'm pretty aware of it. But, oh, man.
Well, and it's like I'll give you a classic case. We're working with $1 million customer.
Yeah.
So 3 months ago, we started this process. We just about had them across the line, and it fell quiet again. On our biggest day of the year, phone call first thing in the morning going, we want to get back to the table, we want this done in 2 weeks. And we had a shop full of people, raining, wet, flat out. But the patience of coming through that 12 weeks to, we're at the table, let's get this done.
Far out. That for me is one of the most anxiety-inducing phases of the closing process. Do you still feel that when you have a verbal agreement with someone versus the first payment, that section in between?
Well, I don't get the anxiety anymore. I learned some lessons and listened to a couple of mentors of mine. And one of the things that really took was they're not a customer until they pay their first bill.
That's right.
Until you've got money in the bank and they've placed an order. So I have not considered at any point in those 12 weeks they're a customer of mine. And they're still not a customer until I get my first order.
It's so tempting seeing the carrot dangle in front of your face, though.
And that's where a lot of people say, I've been taught differently. A lot of people celebrate the wins going, yeah, we've got them, we've got all this business. Have you? Show me where in your books that they've transacted with you. And that's how I've got away from the anxiety of it, because they're not dealing with you until they are.
Well, there's another thing for me to look forward to, or another lesson to take on.
And patient customers are good, because if they're patient, they won't leave you in a hurry if you treat them right.
Well, that's another thing too. It's like I don't really count a client as closed until maybe the first month of delivery, not even the first payment, the first month of delivery after that.
Yeah. Once they start dealing with you, they're yours to use.
That's right. Do you find it's easier to sit down with people face to face?
Absolutely.
Over business rather than emails or over the phone?
Even in the world of tech and everything we live in, because that's going to be the next thing we're going on to, there is nothing better than a face-to-face meeting.
Yeah.
Because you can, it's not actually the fact that you're sitting together, it's the fact that I can read you top to bottom. I know what's happening. Zoom, email, phone, the body language isn't there. You can't quite read the room where you're at. I mean, I've pivoted with so many people in life. I've gone into a meeting going, right, this is going to how we do it. I've literally talked to them for 40 seconds and gone, I have to change tack straight away because this is actually not what they're here for. And you have to deal with them differently. I've dealt with a customer who's a regular customer of ours. I started talking with them. They were more Jamie Lee's age and they just weren't hearing me. I had to pivot and put Jamie Lee in the head of the chair to talk to the customer, who then she closed them and got it done.
Wow.
Because she could relate to them.
Yeah.
Whereas I was the old guy.
And to the young people, the young entrepreneurs listening right now, to the young bloke who just watched a video on Instagram about how someone's making 10 grand a month drop shipping rubber ducks online and how you don't need to talk to anyone.
Just a crap.
How important is it to actually learn social skills, how to learn how to talk to people, body language, eye contact?
Oh, that's like, but that Instagram sell make 10 grand a month. He might be selling 10 grand a month with the rubber ducks. Is that probably costing him $9,460 for second time? And if you're living at home and you're going to make $500 and you're not paying any rent and food and mum and dad are doing everything for you, well, that's probably okay. And that's why it's crap. Because it's, in my mind, it's not real business. It's not career. It's not building a real relationship. Because if you're a customer of mine, you bought $10,000 of the ducks, I am picking up the phone and going, "Hi, Jack. Thank you very much for the purchase of 10,000 ducks. Got to know, what are you doing?" You've got to find the story, because there might be another 100,000 ducks behind that 10,000 ducks. But if you're the invisible man behind the web page, social page, whatever it might be, ClickFunnels, you're not going to get that extra bit.
Yeah.
Because if he's bought that first lot, you want him buying the second lot. What I'm finding with a lot of that disconnected selling is that, and I've done it myself, as I've ended up going back to Google going, "Where did I buy that from?" Google it. "Oh yeah, those guys will do."
Yeah, yeah. And when it comes to those personal touch points, this is a huge learning curve I had as a small business owner. Is in the beginning, I just wanted to make some fucking money. Selling spoon rings from mum's kitchen drawer in the local markets.
I feel very sorry for your mother's drawer, by the way.
That's all right. We refilled it again. There was lots of Facebook marketplace action. It was all about flipping things, although we weren't making any money at all. That's where I learned how to talk to everyone, though, and how to sell things and have conversations. I learned the hard way that it's not about money. Money is the last variable, because in order to exchange money, you need trust. And before you have trust, you need to have a relationship.
Yep.
And in order to have that relationship, especially if you're starting out, you need to provide the value. You need to shoot the free video.
I've got a very quick example. So I don't really buy new mobile phones. I buy reconditioned ones. I use Rebelow. The only reason I use Rebelow is that I bought a couple of phones and I bought Aiden a reconditioned laptop. Because I'd bought 2 or 3 items, I got a phone call from one of the young guys. "Hey, Grab, noticed you bought these 3 or 4 things. You do?" I said, "Oh, it's just for my business and bits and pieces." And he said, "Cool, no worries. This is my mobile number. This is my email address. If you need stuff now, just let me know, and I can, because you're buying for business, I'll give you a different option about what you can get." He's had my business ever since.
Fantastically.
But all that was a minute and a half phone call.
No one does that anymore, though.
That's why he got my business. He still has my business. I still buy bits and pieces, and I go straight there. If one of the kids needs a new phone, I'm going, "Don't go and spend $2 grand. Here's his mobile number. Give him a call. He'll do your deal."
Back to the people who are starting off, those touch points. When it comes to them looking at the huge big fish in their market, for example, or in their local city, if you were to tell them that if you could just simply do 10% more than what they're doing,
You're a success.
Yeah.
Look, I find the biggest mistake people make starting out is they try and land the big fish,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's a bit like building a house. If you don't have foundations, it falls down. I did that here. That's one of my hardware lessons. I landed a big fish, and we were not set up for it. We had them for all of 6 weeks, and I lost them because I couldn't do it. I literally couldn't do the work, and they were about a $500,000 customer for us. We're going back 15 years.
That's relatable, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's so easy to say, yes.
I love
It all sounds great.
Yes, but
I'll figure it out later.
yeah, my mouth got me in trouble.
Yeah.
But even for you and I've had these chats, is build. You'll get to a point where you go, "You know what? I can go and talk to that 10 times client because I now have the team, the infrastructure, and the foundations to handle them." If you land a big fish and you can't handle them, you blow your relationship with them for 10 years.
Yeah.
I know that.
And the relationships you would have from them as well.
Because they will run, the pools they run in, they will go, "He's doing a good job, go talk to him." It's usually, the references are usually no more than that. "Oh, I'll give you a number by Bill from XYZ. He said you can do it."
Nice.
But there's the risk in it too.
There's plenty of risk.
There's plenty of risk. Sometimes, we've all stood at the diving board, going from the 1 meter to the 3 meter and going, holy shit. Sometimes you've just got to step off.
It's fucking terrifying.
It's absolutely terrifying. I have fear of heights.
Yeah.
Developed at an older age, but I don't think I could jump off that 3 meter now. I'll jump off the one, but it's like expanding here. This was a multi-six-figure spend to do this. Did we quite have the cash flow for it? But we just didn't. Then Tiller and I just did the whole and jumped off the 3 meter board.
Yeah.
Has it been a phenomenal success, transformed how we operate and really driven us forward into the next level of what we can do? Absolutely. Could have gone the other way.
It's been so conflicting listening to people like yourself, but also knowing at the same time that action solves everything, although not in the way that you're usually thinking, in the sense that, yes, let's close that 50K per month client. Oh, hang on, we don't have the back end set up yet.
Yeah.
It's like finding that balance has to be one of the most difficult things.
And here, you've talked to I a little bit about the mental health side of all of this, and you talk about those risks. That's where a lot of the mental health comes in, because you have to take risks, you have to make decisions. In the end, there's only one person responsible for your money. You. Doesn't matter who's advising you, who your accountant is, who your bookkeeper is. In the end, that's your bank account.
Yeah.
So that's where I find the mental health and the stress and the pressure comes from, because it's great when it's working well and it's just ticking along and the money's ticking in and it's fabulous. But if there's a change in the economy, there's a change in the market, you lose a big customer, the bank account changes.
Yeah. And you feel like it's all crumbling down on you.
Absolutely.
Until you build systems, I guess.
Even with the best systems, and been doing this 16 years, I still have what I call the spidey tingle thing, that just something's not quite right. I can feel it.
Yeah.
And you go and check, because, and that's the mental health side I find, especially in small businesses, that you're never not under pressure, even when it's going amazingly, because you're responsible. You have 21 people that you're responsible for the money going in their bank account so that they can buy milk and bread, so they can go home. So the business has to be running well enough to support them. I hate putting people off, whether it's for performance, whether it's because of an economy downturn, telling someone they don't have a job anymore is the single worst job in this entire place.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you work at this, you came to work today, you earned money today, and I tell you this afternoon, here's 2 weeks' pay, you're not needed anymore.
Wow.
So it's not actually the money, it's the personal side of...
It's the relationship.
I just squashed you like a bogan.
Yeah.
Cost your friends.
Yeah.
It's the hardest bit for me, is telling people I'm sorry, you're not necessary.
That's deep. That's very deep. I guess, can I learn hard lessons without living a hard life? No.
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 That's why I said the truly brilliant probably can.
Yeah.
So I'm going to question for you, and now we discussed all of that.
Yeah.
So we're talking Ripple, you're talking working with your brother, your mother, watching your father build planes, which I'm watching your father build planes. Where's Jack at 30 and 40? Where's Ripple at 30 and 40? How do you envision it's going to look?
I'm just trying to get to next week, man.
What do you hate? I'm trying to get to next week. That's not an answer.
Let me think about it. Let me think. When I first tested out networking groups, we all sat around on a circle in this big table. We all had breakfast, and the person leading this networking group said, all right, well, we just handed around this sheet of paper and it says, what's your 5-year plan? And I thought, well, that's fucking stupid. Who saw COVID coming? It's completely unpredictable to predict or to even assume more than 2 years in the future.
But you got to have the basis.
The basis. Oh.
If right now, if everything went perfectly, where's Jack at 30?
At 30.
So that's 11 years from now.
Yeah, that's like another third of my lifetime from now.
Yeah.
At a higher table to start with, although I would also like to be teaching people what I've learned along the way as well. I'm still trying to do that with my team as well. I have young people in my team who are 19 and 20, and I'm trying to teach them what I've learned in my business, how they can even go out and do it themselves. But I want to have a higher level of doing that. I want to have a broader reach. I want to meet higher net worth individuals, and I want to travel. I want to be multi-locational, and to have clients all around the world, which we're quite close to.
It would have been nice at 30.
Although then again, that could be like 25, 23.
It could be 48.
Could be 48. You don't know.
And that's why it's a good question, because you look at you at your age and everything you've experienced. I challenge you to look at 11 years, 20 years ahead, and immediately you go,
What's the phrase? Shoot for the moon, land among the stars. Were you always an ambitious person?
I think so.
Okay.
I've been in charge. Not at boarding school. I was bullied mercilessly at boarding school. I never had any involvement in anything to do with being a captain or in charge or anything like that. Probably my second year jackarooing, they made me the senior jackaroo, and I basically sat in senior positions for the rest of my life. And it wasn't that I went looking for it. I just could do it.
Yeah.
And I realised I got paid more. I probably, looking back, I think I wish I hadn't as much in my 20s, because it stopped me doing a lot of the fun things I should have done. Because I was always trying to make sure everyone was okay. Like, we had a party in the Jackaroo's quarters. I've got the scars running down my arm where a girl who was full of grog fell at a window. I put myself between her and the window and I went like that. So I went through the plate glass window and I realised everyone was drunk. So I had to wrap myself in a towel and drive myself to hospital because no one could drive.
Wow.
But flipping it around, at the age of 21, I wasn't there having any fun. I was, as a 21-year-old, was going around making sure everyone was okay.
Yeah. Wow, okay. You know, one thing I've noticed about your guests, I'd like to ask you the same question, because this just came to mind. A lot of your guests, at least more than half, have this moment, quite similar to what I experienced in school, that one teacher who, I don't know if they just have a bad home life or something like that, but they all say something along the lines of, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get nowhere in life. I'll see you flipping burgers in a year from now. A year from then I was flipping steaks, although now I'm running a 6-figure business with a team of more than 6, and it feels like a revenge story, but in the best way possible. I've seen so many experiences like that with your guests. What would be your revenge story?
So school was interesting for me. I was a very good sports person, especially year 11, year 12. So I did no schoolwork. My father jokes that it cost him $59,640 to spend 6 years for me to run around Oval at school. I had Mr. Keevers, who now I realise that he probably had my best interests at heart. He just told me to stop wasting his time. If I didn't want to do schoolwork, get out of his class and go and run around Oval so he could actually teach people. So I did. I quit his class and went around and spent it. I got an extra couple of classes a week to go train. I actually realised now he challenged me to see whether I actually wanted to do it or not. Because you don't succeed unless you want to do it. You got to want it. If you don't want it, you'll never do it. And so I didn't have that teacher who was cruel to me. At the time, I thought he was just being cruel. But I actually realised that he was actually challenging me to see whether I wanted to do better or not. And at 48, I could probably go back and tell my 16-year-old self, just stay in geography and do it.
Okay. That's something I noticed about Jodie as well. She had a similar experience with someone in her industry who said, you're young and naive, you won't get anywhere. Then she got somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, that was the plan the entire way through, you know?
Oh, look, and that's like lessons, you know. It's we all learn lessons. Moving into behind the podcast, you know, we can actually flip pretty seamlessly into this bit. You look at what the people don't see us doing here. You look at all the behind the scenes stuff, the setups, the good takes, bad takes, outtakes. There's a bad outtake of starting this thing. All our teachers, everyone we're doing, even this year, everything's learned.
Yeah.
When we first set up with Jodie to do this, we just sort of sat down and went,
let's do it.
And I sat on the squeaky chair and I think...
The squeaky chairs. I recall moments where we just had to stop recording altogether because I'd be leaning on my chair or Nicole would be leaning on her chair and you go, all right, let's do it really slowly so no one notices. And it goes. And then she turns back towards me, pulling the. It's like,
And then I start laughing because you're both pulling faces.
Yeah.
You know, but look, we weren't prepared for all of that. You know, one of the things that we were just talking about before, look at the emotional pause that we have with some of our guests where we've hit something really hard. We've actually paused and we've all sat here, including the guests, just sat in silence for 45 seconds, like trying to regather ourselves. I wasn't ready for the emotion of the show. I just thought we're all going to have a good chin wag and on when we go.
Yeah, yeah. It was really interesting seeing that moment with Sam in particular, where you just didn't know what to say.
Oh, nothing.
None of us. There was this deafening silence that filled the room.
But it was the fact of sitting here with someone who lost his brother and, you know, as you two, and Nicole over there, who breaking the fourth wall, who went, okay, cool, that's the bit. Then he breaks into losing his fiance and, you know, bang, bang, it's that raw truth of losing these two important people in your life in a fairly short time frame. And then you fast forward to our weirdest moments and Warwick probably owns most of them. And we laughed our way through the whole thing.
That was really cool.
If you're from around here, chances are you've had something embroidered, print or pressed by us. And if you haven't, come look us up. And it hasn't come with its challenges. Like, you know, I have probably talked about things on here that I've never talked with. You know, I think Teela's learned things about me that I just haven't talked about myself. And I'm the one in charge of the show interviewing people. I just hear things I can relate to and then speak them. And a lot of the Jamie Lee stuff with foster care and mother being absent for 20 years and all those sorts of things, that's not public knowledge. That comes with a bit of its own challenge to be comfortable with it. I'm actually rubbing my hands because it makes me uncomfortable talking about it because it's just a part of the life that wasn't great.
Yeah.
But you've got to be able to be, once again, go back to being real. If you're not real, you're not. It's not believable.
Well, what do you have when you push through that?
It's almost like therapy. Because you actually feel a bit lighter because you actually go, you know what, I'm not sitting on this now. Everyone now knows. It's not in the.
Nicole and I, on the drive back from the last podcast, we realised that Monday nights are so refreshing in a way that it's like going to church. It kind of resets you.
Well, yeah, I'm probably the same. Just that, and that's why I probably paused a bit. I think about that because I'm a bit the same. I get home and I'm like, yeah, I feel really good, and I've learned this and I've learned that, and I have a big download of Teela. You know, and I think that's probably a very good sentence we've got here: wisdom inherited and wisdom earned. It says VS, but I actually think they're nearly one and the same with our discussions, because look what we inherit that we learn from our parents, grandparents, and so forth. But look at the wisdom we're earning from sitting with these people.
Yeah, yeah.
You've probably listened to a lot of really good lessons in this. What's a couple of lessons that you think of things you're going to avoid?
To start with, to all the young people especially, the power of shutting up and listening is a fantastic skill. Because if you have someone who seems a bit closed off at first, typically older men sometimes, who are in a position that you would like to be, that you need to learn from, giving them the opportunity to play the mentor is extremely rewarding on both ends.
Yeah. And I've done it sitting in the chair here. Sometimes you've seen me, I'll just go real quiet and just let them go.
Yeah.
Especially when they're on something that's really good stuff.
That's what I've learned about mentorship. Number 2, again, it comes down to getting over that self-doubt because you got bigger shit to worry about. You have a team behind you, a family to represent. I pay my mum a wage now. You know, it's no longer about me. I feel as if I'm supporting my family now. And I'm supporting the other family who works with us as well, and my clients. It's no longer about you. You need to lock in.
I suppose, yeah. But being responsible to clients. I mean, look at some of the conversations you and I have had. It's nothing bad, but at times it's been like your expectation of me and my expectation of you have gotten a little skewed. We've had to pull each other into the expectation so we stay on keel.
And that's what I mean about relationship. For those who are looking for some sort of transactional monetary relationship where I tell you what to do, you do it. It's like, yeah, that's cool, but what we're looking for is to build a relationship with someone. You know, I would actually count you as a bit more of a friend than a client. Of course, there happens to be money involved in the background, but nonetheless, the same things are still the same.
What's your biggest lesson from creating the show? Because this is 4 months now. Well, it's more than 4 months, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your...
My biggest lesson from creating the show? I can give two answers. One logical and one more emotional. One, turnaround time is a big thing. Workload is a huge thing as well. It's so easy to put your hand up and say, yeah, I'll take care of that. And then you do it for another small thing and another small thing, and it adds up until you don't have a life anymore, and you need to figure out how to redelegate that. We received a lot of that with figuring out how to work the podcast, the editing process, the SOPs we've built behind it, the AI assistant. Now that we've kind of set something up, we need to figure out how to redelegate it. Number two is, from the people you've had on, what I've learned in my experience. There's a lot to look forward to regardless, and whenever you're going through a dark moment, you have something to look forward to. And any time you're going through a pleasurable moment, you should be prepared for what's coming next.
For me, it doesn't matter who I talk to, someone has a story to tell, and it'll blow your socks off. And I think our biggest stories have come from the people who thought they were the least interesting.
That's right. That's right.
You can't replicate that. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if they're male, female, 25, 60. I just love the stories.
Yeah. Storytelling has to be one of the best ways to market yourself even.
Oh, yeah. But just people get an appreciation for who you are.
Oh, yeah.
And it keeps your feet on the ground. You know, it's everyone gets a bit caught up with, you know, big business, small business. I'm breaking all the walls. I'm the biggest and baddest. But listening to all these people makes me keep my feet firmly on the ground. And in the end, we all bleed the same way.
Oh, it's so easy to be prideful in business and to believe that nothing but your perspective exists.
Yeah.
Which is completely wrong, by the way, just to establish. When you can see someone choosing to open up in front of you on the red table, you understand, hang on, it's not that deep. Other people have it worse. We're doing really, really good right now. Meeting them in person, I don't know, and the audience can say this in the comments as well. Do you suppose there'd be a difference between watching it behind a screen and experiencing it in person?
Good question to ask Teela, because she sat there and listened to two of them. She's listened to Mr. Ruckus, Peter, and I can't remember the other one. Teela the Sheila. But she sat in the corner over there on the other side of the racks there and couldn't hear anything. I didn't even know she was here, and she said just listening to Peter and I talk about her was quite, gave her tingles, because we were discussing her and our relationship and things, but hearing it from two people that didn't know she was there, so it wasn't put on, it was actual real discussion, was quite amazing. I know plenty of people who listen to this on Spotify, and I don't know if it hits the same as watching the mannerisms and the waving hands and everything. I'm not terribly sure, but I think that it'd be interesting doing this in real life with a couple of people sitting there. Maybe we need a studio audience.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
I can have the white plastic chairs there.
Oh yeah,
popcorn. So that does us. That's us trying to be finished and done. Our next episode is probably going to be our biggest guest yet. Yeah, our ex-Federal member, John McVeigh. I'm looking forward to this one. That's a big story to cover.
It is. It is. I'm looking forward to that as well.
I think he's going to be fantastic. Well, everyone, thank you very much for watching the 48 and 19-year-old view of the hard way and the people. If you're looking for us, look for us on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And if you want to find Ripple Media,
you can find us on Instagram, our new website, Facebook, any social media platform, really, because our job is to make you famous.
All right. Thank you for watching, everyone.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, mate. Oh, sorry, I'm getting corrected from the back. 19-year-old. He's got in here 8. Oh, no, 19. Yeah, okay, mate. Welcome.
Are you ready?
That's my line. Don't pinch it.
And we've seen that said 17 on it.
No, this is too good.